day, everyone, and welcome to episode 11 of Inside the Autistic Mind. For new viewers, I am Dr. Lamel Roseval, a speech-language pathologist for children on the spectrum for autism. My co-host, Dr. Shania Bridgeman, is a cognitive behavioral therapist.
For our new viewers tuning in for the first time, I would like to briefly dive into what autism is. Autism, or as some may say, ASD, refers to a broad range of conditions characterized by challenges with social skills, repetitive behavior, speech, and nonverbal communication. According to CDC, autism affects an estimated 1 in 44 children in the United States today.
As the prevalence rates of this disorder increase, our aim for this episode is to discuss the best transition services that are available. We have with us today a special guest, Ms. Camille Griffith. She is a transition facilitator from the twin island of Trinidad and Tobago. She is here to discuss today with us the role she plays as a transition facilitator and how she has helped individuals and their families attain their goals.
Good day, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. It's really a pleasure to be here.
Truly, the pleasure is all ours. We love your work, and so the honor is ours to have you with us here today. So, Mrs. Griffith, for our viewers who may not know who you are, please tell us what you do and what exactly is transition planning.
So, I am a transition planner. I work especially with individuals who has autism, and this is previously called Asperger's syndrome. Transition planning has to do with ensuring that those individuals can live their lives that are meaningful and substantial. A transition can be viewed as a point in an individual's life where they move from one set of circumstances to another set of completely different circumstances. So I am there to help them with the transition.
That, our viewers, is the lovely and talented Mrs. Griffith. Mrs. Griffith, I know you have a very special case for us today, so please, the floor is all yours.
Thank you. So before I begin, I have received permission from my client's parents to discuss this case. So firstly, my client's name is Jennifer. She is 17 years old and has Asperger's syndrome. Jennifer has been doing exceptionally well in mathematics, and as a result, she has been offered a scholarship in a very prestigious school. But it is a 5-hour drive away from her parents, who believes that she is not yet ready to attend a school that is so far away from them.
Dr. Roseval and I have looked at many families who share the same fears.
If I may interject, who should have the most input when it comes to future life decisions?
With transition planning, it is important that the client sets a goal for his or her learning. In this case, Jennifer's goal is to attend her prestigious university, so she should have the most input when making her decision for after graduation. Jennifer needs to concern herself with completing age-appropriate transition assessments, learning about the transition process, thinking about what services would help her in her daily adult life, thinking about what she wants to do and where she wants to do it in the years after school. She should be meeting and working with career guidance counselors to determine which courses and other school experiences that are required after school. Learning more about her disability and how to get those services and supports that she needs to achieve her long-term goals, while developing and using self-determination and self-advocacy skills.
That is so right. For young persons to have a successful transition into adult life, all members of the IEP team must do their part. Schools alone cannot get a young person ready for adulthood. The family, the community, service agencies, and the young person themselves share this responsibility. When the IEP team carries out the transition process well, the young person greatly benefits. It is imperative that Jennifer portrays the skills necessary for independent living, since her parents have expressed their fears to you. Self-determination skills are vital to the futures of all individuals, and they involve many attitudes and abilities including self-awareness, assertiveness, creativity and pride, and problem-solving and self-advocacy skills. To take charge of her own life, Jennifer must be able to set goals, evaluate her options, make choices, and then work to achieve these preset goals.
This is This is why I preach about early intervention for our parents and parents to be who are tuned in today. The earlier your child receives treatment, the better the chances are of making significant progress.
Yes.
Early diagnosis and treatment of ASD can make a big difference in your child's life. Behavioral therapy is an important part Behavioral therapy is an important treatment for many children with autism. The sooner a child can start therapy, the more likely they are to make progress in regards to their skills later on in life. Early intervention is the best way to support the development and well-being of children with autism. It can help them to develop the skills they need to take part in everyday activities. Sometimes children who get early intervention need less or no support as they get older.
The
Right.
school district has the main responsibility to make sure that the measurable annual goals are being addressed. If the service has to be provided by an agency has not been provided, the school district must get the IEP team back together to find another way to provide that service. The school district is responsible for helping students and agencies link with one another with consent. The school district is also responsible for helping the student learn self-determination skills so that the student can effectively participate in IEP meetings and self-advocate if appropriate. Agency responsibilities representatives from another agency may be asked to attend IEP meetings. It is important to remember agencies can only be invited with parental consent or the consent of the individual who has reached the age of maturity.
And I believe you mentioned earlier that her parents do not believe that she is yet ready for independent life.
She often has difficulty socializing with her peers. She has poor grooming skills such as uncombed hair and mismatched clothes. She seems to be insensitive to others' feelings, and she is easily manipulated by others.
Oh my, I am curious about the extent of the manipulation she undergoes. Can you provide a bit more insight into the matter?
She refers to the boys in her class as her boyfriends, and these boyfriends tend to take advantage of her. She would later regret these activities, claiming that they were done to get her boyfriends to like her, which also leaves her female peers excluding her from certain activities.
Before you continue, Mrs. Griffith, I would like to provide some insight into the reason Jennifer may be allowing these actions. You see, in Jennifer's mind, she may be thinking, I am doing what is right. I am making friends the best way I know how. This is where my specializations come into play. As a cognitive behavioral therapist, I can understand that at this stage in Jennifer's life, she is experiencing changes in her body. She might not understand what they mean. As you mentioned before, she has trouble understanding social cues and interactions. Many children and adults on the autism spectrum need help when learning how to act in different types of social situations. They often have the desire to interact with others, but may not know how to engage or control themselves in these situations.
Dr. Bridgman, allow me to chime in here. As a speech language pathologist, my recommendation is that Jennifer be enrolled into a social skills training program. You see, this type of training would surely enable her to understand social cues and help with her conversational skills. A social skills program for young adults with autism provide lasting benefits that include a steady growth in social connections, A child or young person with a social communication problem may appear to say the wrong thing or act in the wrong way when communicating with their peers.
In my field, there is something called person-centered planning. This is a process that assists this child to express and document a living portfolio and plan for meaningful action towards the individual's goals and desires. A meeting is held with the individual, their parents, their friends, their teachers, and any other specialist that is working with the child. Here, a facilitator will hold a discussion about the child's individual goals, their desires, strengths, and weaknesses for the future. From there, the goals will be established.
Well, we can agree that Jennifer's skills lie in her academic achievements, but the development of her social and behavioral skills still need improving upon.
Very true, Doctor. Though I respect Jennifer's ambition and determination of her academic goals, what is really tickling me here is her ability to live independently in college. But let's look aside from academics for a minute. Mrs. Griffith, you mentioned earlier that Jennifer lacks grooming skills and suffers with understanding these social cues from her peers. So you say, I am thinking about that and the risk Jennifer will encounter whilst living on her own. She would now have complete control over her everyday life and decision. These risks we just can't skip over. College life is not a walk in the park. We have all been there. We were once there. I am thinking about Jennifer and having to care for herself every day, dealing with these increased levels of communication and the social environment. She may not be able to decipher the good company from the bad.
Good point, Dr. Bridgman. However, providing that Jennifer is really excited to go off independently into college, by her staying with her parents and going to community school, the possibility exists that it would affect Jennifer both mentally and emotionally. By going to a new environment, she can attempt to make new friends, practice social monitoring skills, and she will have to stick to the goals that has been created for her.
I agree, Miss Griffith, that staying with her parents, despite her wishes to practice independence, can result in a change in her mental stability. She can develop feelings of low self-worth, thinking her parents do not believe in her. Staying at home can also reinforce her people-pleasing tendencies and reset the progress her team of specialists have been making with regards to decreasing that unwanted behavior. In addition, the Journal of Cognitive Therapy and Research has published research in 2017 suggesting that helicopter parenting can trigger anxiety in kids who struggle with some social issues. Parents should, of course, do the best they can for their kids. Impulses to involve ourselves in our children's lives come from a sense of duty and unconditional love. But we must try letting our students and our children discover for themselves their weaknesses, their strengths, their goals, and their dreams. Jennifer going off to college without first correcting that unwanted behavior will definitely pose a threat. Predatory behavior, as we know, is prevalent in many tertiary education institutions. Boundaries are the number one issue from both parents and kids. If your child gets stuck on an individual or wants a significant other, how do we know when that person is not interested or how much to persist? This is obviously not just an issue for individuals on the spectrum for autism. Safety is a big issue as well. As we know from everything in the news lately, conversations about consent can be tricky. When you have difficulty reading others, it can be especially hard. A lot of movies and TV shows suggest that if individuals do increasingly romantic gestures for someone, they will fall in love. But that's not always the case in reality. Social and emotional topics such as dating should be introduced before a student starts dating or reaches the age that they would desire these things to allow for lots of preparation and time for questions and the practice of skills.
Sometimes kids with autism do get sex education at school, but it's often brief and not adapted to their learning styles. We give the parents the topics ahead of time so that if someone does not want their child to learn about contraception, for example, they can simply skip that lesson. But we do encourage that all participants attend all of the classes. Most families we work with at the center has a range of reactions in terms of how they want to be involved in these conversations. So some may want us to do it totally. However, others may want to be involved in the process. Some teens and young adults with autism may end up in trouble with the law because of their inability to understand what they should and shouldn't be looking at online.
Right.
The autism spectrum, sexuality, and the law, what every parent and professional needs to know, provides a cautionary tale told by a man with autism and leading autism experts.
Recommendation for Jennifer after graduation: if she is going off to college, her parents set her up with a behavioral therapist close by. Cognitive behavioral therapy has two parts. The cognitive component helps change how the individual thinks about a situation, whereas the behavioral component helps change how they react to such situation. Cognitive behavioral therapy is a short-term, problem-focused approach. During cognitive behavioral therapy sessions, Jennifer would work with a specially trained therapist to learn how her thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are related and influence each other. In order for Jennifer to change her unwanted feelings or problematic behaviors, the therapist would teach Jennifer strategies to modify her thoughts and respond differently during certain situations. This treatment will help Jennifer to develop better social skills and problem solving skills, which will consequently help Jennifer improve her relationships with others.
I agree, and Jennifer's parents and team of specialists will be able to estimate the rate at which she will learn these skills and determine if skill mastery is achievable. With 2 months left to graduate, I propose that until she develops the necessary self-advocacy skills, she should remain at home with her parents. There are support groups, however, where Jennifer can make friends with individuals experiencing similar problems. She and her parents can reach out to the school counselor at the college she was accepted into and administrators to discuss her developmental problems. And they can allow her to stay in a supervised dorm with a buddy system. And that way, she and her body will work together to navigate the social and emotional challenges at that school. In a different situation, the final decision is Jennifer's, but as she lacks the necessary skills, I'm hoping that she agrees to work on them before leaving her family home.
I believe that she should go to school. As accommodations can be made for Jennifer, she will be using person-centered planning. She will have a full set of strategies that will assist her while she's additionally, like Dr. Bridgman said, she can also be provided an aid while she's away.
So, my lovely listeners, there you have it. We have reached the end of yet another fruitful segment of Inside the Autistic Mind. Lots were discussed, and we hope this has not only helped Jennifer, but her parents and other families who are out there and are in the same predicament. Once again, we thank you, Mrs. Griffith, for
Thank you so
gracing
much.
our podcast with your presence. Thank you to our listeners, and do not forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and be on the lookout for more mind-boggling and toggling content. Catch us here every Thursday afternoon. Signing off, your host, Dr. Bridgman and Dr. Roseval. Bye now.
Goodbye.